Hi, folks. We're Tacitus today. Your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the wider implications, which could be geopolitical, I guess, in their extremity. But the issue of there's three issues here of the amount of Hispanics in the United States, the amount of Hispanics that typically go to the United States every year, and the amount of Hispanics that are being deported, with promises by the Trump administration to seriously ramp up the deportations and to offer incentives for people to self-deport. I think the self-deport, thing's fairly generous. We pay for you to go back to your country of origin, and we'll give you $1,000 or even $3,000 if you'll go back, if you'll self-deport. But just having a look at the wider issues in now South America for some time, and it's waxed and waned in numbers, but for some time, the South American banana republics, when they've gone into political disunity or states of where they're effectively failed states, or certainly heading in that direction, that they can, rather than have, say, a revolution at home, they can just send out the government or whatever, just send out their agitators, and they can even get the NGOs to help them here. And so, hey, just go to America, hey, America, go to America. And so off they go. And, in some countries there that aren't huge to begin with, they've exported millions of their people to the United States. And whether these people are criminals, or they've emptied out the asylums, or they've got rid of the criminals or the gangs, or whatever it is, or maybe even the industrious, or those that just want to go to a first world country so they can loot it and go on welfare. It doesn't really matter, but these banana republics in South America have been able to export their surplus or troublesome or unwanted or difficult population to America. And during the Biden auto pen years, that's been, depending on whose numbers you look at, just Hispanics, Latinos alone have been somewhere between 1.7 and 2 million every year from South America. This means that something like 30 to 40% of the total Ecuadorian population, for example, or Ecuadorian diaspora, lives in the fucking United States, illegally, most of them. So now being able to get rid of your unwanted people quickly, and just saying, hey, you just go over there, and there's no obstacle or impediment to them doing that. Every hand, whether it be an NGO or Mexican authorities, or it doesn't matter, but they've assisted every step of the way. And the majority, the 99% of them, couldn't afford the journey anyway. So unless they get free accommodation, free food, clothing, water, shelter, unless they get all that sort of stuff laid on, they couldn't make the journey. Nonetheless, off they go. So they end up in the United States. Now there's, depending again on whose numbers you look, something in the order of 25 plus million illegal Hispanics in the United States. Some say it's closer to 20, others say it's closer to 30 million. But whatever it is, it's a large number. Now, if the deportations, whether they're induced through bribes, like here's money if you'll go, or whether they're forcibly deported by ICE, but if the majority of the illegal aliens, or even many millions of them, I mean, even if half let's say it's 25 million, even if 10 to 12 million were deported, then that's a lot of people going back to South America where they came from. But on top of that, there are very few coming in to the United States at the moment, certainly nowhere near the millions that were coming in. Some saying the numbers are as low as 5,000, per month that are coming in. I think it's probably higher than that, but nonetheless, it's nowhere near the numbers that it was. So whether it be Mexico or Ecuador, Bolivia, or fucking Peru, it doesn't matter. Any one of these countries, they just can't export their people anymore. Where else are they going to go? Now, they may try and go to more prosperous South American countries, so the dirt poor countries may go to, say, middle-income Chile, for example. But even there, the government's starting to clamp down on these illegals. So their options to go anywhere are being reduced and limited, and there's many more coming back to the country. Hundreds of thousands are already self-deporting to go back to somewhere in South America. So this changes the landscape in terms of they can't get rid of people, and the original citizenry is starting to come back in large numbers, not just a couple of hundred here or there, but if at the moment in the tens of thousands. But if the Trump administration does get its act together, hopefully soon, then there's something in the order of if you look at the people that have been forcibly deported and the ones that have been self-deporting out of the US, then the numbers aren't huge. There's maybe slightly more than were coming in illegally, during the Biden auto pen years. So this is not a big turnaround in terms of getting a result on US type level results, but it's a huge implications for these countries. If you can get rid of a couple of 100,000 people a year, that may cause you trouble. You're in some banana republic. That's a lot of problems you're getting rid of. So without that option and many more coming in, that's going to change things. It'll also create different political and social pressures in those countries. Some of those people will be coming out of repatriated back from the United States. They've been living the American, an American lifestyle, or at least in terms of wealth and legal rights and so on. They've been living an American lifestyle for some. They're going to come back with different ideas on things like guns and legal rights, Bill of Rights type things are going to be issues, and that in turn will create political pressures. So that has the capacity to cause change, and if not change, then disruption. It's unlikely the caballeros, the heavy sort of landowning class are going to want to give way to these people. So that may cause a level of disputation and discord and so on. Probably the bigger, if not the more important issue, is that these millions of people, again, over 20 million people, are living in the United States. Now, whether they were working slave labor or they were living 50 to a one-bedroom apartment, it doesn't really matter, but they were repatriating some fairly substantial sums of money back to South America. And if you look at particularly the poorer countries in South America, something between a quarter and a third of their total economy is repatriations from the United States. So let's suppose, a lot of that dries up, then suddenly the economic circumstances in those already impoverished countries may become even worse, which in turn would create pressures for reforms and requirement, people lobbying the government, hey, what are you going to do about this? And so the corrupt basket case, sloth-laden, fucked up, piss poor republics in South America, they're going to get a lot of pressure to try and do something about the poverty and do something about the organizational structures and the administration, public policy, administration of courts, and all sorts of things like that. They're going to get a lot of pressure to deal with that, and that may turn out to be a good thing, or it may boil over into some sort of revolution and so on. But in the long run, this is how it has to be. These countries have to sort out their own problems, sort out their own issues, make the necessary reforms and adaptations and so on. But it's unlikely things can continue in those places as they are. There's these millions of people. Not only can they get rid of millions of people, but there are millions of people coming back. And this will create a huge wildcard effect, I think, across South America, or certainly across the banana republics at least, Mexico among them. And it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But as repatriations from the illegals working in the US is such a huge part of South American economies, then, or some South American economies, then that alone is going to be potentially going to put a tinderbox in the middle of it all. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.